quickly see what a legal object is. Okay. Now, I we've also what I've also started with is I said we are going to explore the relationship between legal subject and legal object. So, what is a legal object? And I want us to go to the bottom of page 26 of our course outline. And it tells us there you can take your highlighter and highlight this for me. The legal object, okay, of a right may be anything that is of economic value to a person. So, firstly, when we look at a legal object, firstly, a legal object must have economic value. Okay, so something, students, something may have economic value. I'm saying may, if it costs a lot of money. Okay, so when we speak of economic value, it is something we can attach a money value to. So some of us might have a painting in our house, and you can say that painting I bought at an art gallery for 50,000 rand. Okay, you can say that my 2018 Mercedes Benz C Class 200 is worth 550,000 rand. Why? Because it has economic value, and to that economic value I can attach a money value to it, hence it gives me economic value. Okay, an object may also have economic value because it is something which is scarce, okay, or difficult to come by. So something has economic value if you can attach monetary value to it. It has economic value if it is scarce. Okay. It may also have economic value if it is useful and many people have wish to have it. Okay. It may be of value only to a particular person. And here we're looking at a personality, right? That is your good name. Okay. So for many of us, we can attach value to our names, our reputation. Okay. So if we look at a legal object, okay, it's an object that has economic value. Okay, it has economic value because one can attach money value to it. As it has economic value because it can be scarce. It has economic value because it is useful. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Can anybody, now I'm going to give just 2 minutes for comments quickly. Can anybody give me an example of a legal object? I want 3 comments, please. Okay, you can either type it in or you can unmute your mic and give me an example. Can anybody, I want 3, give me an example of a legal object? Michelle Forbes, thank you. A house. A house is a legal object. Firstly, it has economic value because we can put a price to it. I can say my house in Camps Bay is worth 3 million rand. Very good. Thank you, Michelle. Any other comments? I want 2 more comments. I have a house. Anyone else? Okay. Let me see in the chat function if there's another comment. Okay, Asipe, your laptop. Yes, a laptop has economic value. Again, you can put a money value to it. It's useful to many people. Very good, very good. And Angela, paintings. Yes, okay. So we can all identify what a legal object is. Very good, very good. Now I'm going to continue. So in our law, okay, very, very importantly, students, in our law, okay, we have four classes or four kinds of rights. And here we only looking at our body of private law. Okay, so in terms of our body of private law, remember our body of law is divided into two sections. Okay, our first body is that of public law, but we concentrating now on our body of private law. And in private law, the rights that are given, okay, to a legal subject, okay, that's me and you. It's divided into four classes in our body of private law, okay, four classes of rights, okay. And we're going to go in detail in terms of each right. We're going to discuss each right in detail. So our first right is a very, very strong right, people. Okay? Very, very strong right. And this is a real right. So if you have a real right over a thing, it's a very, very strong right. Okay? An example of a real right is ownership. Okay? We're going to look at that extensively. We're going to look at personality rights. Secondly, thirdly, we are going to be looking at intellectual property rights or immaterial property rights. Okay? This is known as a non-tangible creation of the human mind. Okay, here we're looking at music or a poem or something like that. And then lastly, we are going to be looking at personal rights or the right to performance. Any questions so far? Any questions? Any questions or any comments? Okay. What I want you to do is, those of you who have your course readers with you, I want you to take 5 minutes quickly and read through all the rights for me. Okay? I want you to take 5 minutes and read through all the rights for me quickly. Um, I'm going to switch off my mic for 5 minutes and I am going to give you an opportunity just for 5 minutes at 6 o'clock now, for 5 minutes just to read through those four rights. In the meantime, if there's any questions, I want you to type it into the chat function for me, okay? Okay, I'm checking if there's any questions in the chat function. No questions. So, students, what you must be doing quickly before I start the discussion is just to quickly go through the four rights for me, which starts at the bottom of page 27. Okay. Students, while you are busy reading, um, Adele did make this this announcement last week. I am available for one-on-one sessions as well. So please engage with Adele to book sessions for me, find out when my available time is, fill out the necessary paperwork with your queries or questions so that I can prepare myself for our consultation. Okay, so we are going to go to number one now, and we are going to look at the first class of rights. And the first right we are going to look at is a real right. Can I continue? Okay, I'm going to continue. Students, apologies. I've been talking for about 2 minutes and I've just realized I didn't have my earphones in. So, apologies for that. I'm going to start on page 27. We're going to look at what a real right is. So, before I continue, are there any questions for me? Can I continue? Okay. So, firstly, the first class of right in our branch of private law or in our body of private law is a real right. Now, real rights are the rights you have over or to physical or material things. Okay, and these are things you can touch, you can see them. So it's things like we had in our examples: the house, the computer, the painting, the pen, the car, a herd of cows, or whatever it is. Okay? So, although the object of a real right is always a thing, okay, the real right themselves will be called, for example, the right of ownership, a right of pledge, or a right of servitude. Okay, so examples or expression of a real right is the right to ownership, the right of pledge, and the right of servitude. Okay, so what does this mean? We are going to look at the powers we may exercise and what make up the content of a real right. Okay, and we're going to look at three examples of real rights. As I said, ownership, pledge, and servitude. Okay. And in the case, students, In the case of ownership, the owner has the right to freely use and enjoy property. So one of the rights that lie within ownership, or the content of the right of ownership, is free use and enjoyment over the property. And it does not matter whether it's movable property or immovable property. Okay? The owner of that property further has the right to alienate the property, to get rid of it, or give it away. The owner can even destroy the property. Okay? So when it comes to the right of ownership, the owner's powers, okay, is to freely use the property, to enjoy the property, to alienate or destroy the property. Okay? And this forms the content of the owner's real right of ownership. Okay? Any questions related to that? Any questions or comments related to that? Okay, so ownership is a very, very strong right. Okay, any comments? There's no comments. I'm going to continue. Okay, let's look at what a pledge is. Okay, so when we pledge something, it means we give a movable thing. Okay, Angelina Sioka, you posed the question. I'm going to look at it now. Let me just finish the right to pledge quickly. I've taken note of your question, Angelina. So the second real right is that of a pledge. When we pledge something, we give a movable thing as security for a debt. So a person may give her horse, whom she owes money to, as security for a debt. Okay? So when you pledge something, that thing you give as security for a debt. Okay? And what happens here is, okay, the powers of the pledgee over the pledged thing are limited, and the right to the thing is known as a limited real right. Okay, meaning the only once the owner of the thing defaults in terms of the debt, then the pledgee can have his right over the thing. Okay, let me look at Angela's question. The Angela, very good question. The right to ownership does not require proof of ownership. So in South African law, okay, the right of ownership, very, very simple proof of payment. Okay, I can prove that I paid for my car. The car is registered in my name. Okay, those are all proof of the right of ownership. If you look at immovable property is registered in the owner's name. Okay, so that those are examples of proof of ownership? Okay, very good question, Angela. Okay, so when you pledge, okay, it's known as a limited real right, and that is when a movable thing is used as security for a debt. Okay, the right of servitude, in plain and simple English, the right of servitude is also known as the right of way, meaning one person has been given over the land of another person. Okay, meaning this entitles the servitude holder to use a road or a pathway through the land of another person. Her powers or his powers are also limited and may only use the owner's land for this specific purpose. Okay, so servitude, the right of servitude, and the right of pledge are examples of limited real rights. Okay, so you can go through those examples on page 28. Okay, when it comes to limited real rights. Okay, Asipe. Let me see what Asipe says. Asipe typed a question. Let me just look at that. Okay. There was a case I saw where a lady had bought a car for her boyfriend. Very good. Okay. And she was paying for it. They broke up and the boyfriend did not return the car. They went to court and the guy won the case even though he doesn't pay for the car. Why was proof of payment not enough? Asipe, if you go back to the content of a real right, you will firstly see that the holder of that real right, okay, if you look at ownership, okay, the holder of ownership has use and enjoyment over the thing. So for a long time, okay, what did the boyfriend exercise over the car? Use and enjoyment, okay? And that relates to ownership. That relates to the content of the right which is given to a owner. So the court looked at this. So even though he did not pay for the car, okay, his life partner, who was his girlfriend, although she paid for the car, it was her intention. It was her intention as well that the boyfriend have free, undisturbed use and enjoyment over the car. And this is the factors that the court looked at when the court stated he may retain ownership of that car. Okay. Michelle, should we not also see in whose name the car was registered? Yes, that is symbolic. Okay. But what did the boyfriend show the court? The boyfriend showed the court I had free, undisturbed use and enjoyment over the car. Okay. Can I continue? I'm going to continue now and I'm going to go to the other class of rights, and that is personality rights. Okay, and I'm on paragraph 2 on page 29. There was a comment now from from Michelle Forbes. Interesting. Yes, Michelle, it's very interesting. Remember, one characteristic of our law is that our law cannot remain static. Our law needs to adapt to how society adapts. Okay. So, yes, very, very interesting and becoming more interesting every day. Can we look at personality rights? There's another question. Thank you. People are very active tonight. Let me just look at this comment. In the case of immovable property, would the boyfriend still, he could still possibly win the case if he had free, undisturbed use and enjoyment over the property. Yes, it's just the the subject of the object that is changed. In terms of the car, it was movable property. In terms of a house, immovable property. So I don't think it would make a difference. Okay. So you as future lawyers, okay, some free legal advice. Please be very careful who you make your property available to. Okay? Please be very, very careful. And now I want us to look at the next class of rights, which is known as personality rights. Yes, Angela, very interesting indeed. Okay? So, personality rights. Michelle, I'm going to answer your question in a little while. Can I just get through the next class of rights, which is personality rights? So, personality rights are those rights each one of us has to parts of our person and personality. So, examples of these rights are the right to our physical integrity, meaning the right to our own body, the right to your good name or reputation, or the right to your honor. Okay? And in Latin, okay, in terms, these are all common law rights. And I want you to go to the notes section and take down the following Latin terms. Okay? Our bodily rights. Okay? Our bodily rights are divided into three. Okay? Firstly, our corpus, which relates to our body. I'm typing it in. Then, secondly, our pharma, which relate to our good name. And thirdly, our dignitas. These are all Latin terms which relate to our dignity. Sorry, that's a typo. It must be dignity. Yeah? So you have your corpus, your pharma, and your dignitas. Your corpus relates to your body, your pharma, your good name, and your dignitas to your dignity. Okay? We can then say that the objects of these rights also have economic value, and here they have economic value in a wide or a broad sense, but not necessarily market value. Okay? So, hence, one can institute a delictual action, okay? An action in terms of the law of delict for damages to your body, for damages to your good name or reputation, or damages to your dignity. Any questions? Any questions? Okay. Okay, Michelle, very, very good question. Is there a time frame attached to this? Yes, there is a time frame attached to this. I want you here, I'm giving you some homework. Go do some homework on the law of prescription. Okay, and basically, what the law of prescription says is in a civil action, this is a private law action. In a civil action, if you don't institute action within 3 years, okay, in terms of which you have suffered damages, if you don't institute action within 3 years, your claim prescribes. Okay, so in civil law, prescription takes place within 3 years. Okay, very good question, Michelle. Prescription in terms of civil law takes place within a period of 3 years. Okay, there's a comment on the other side. Students, my sound is on. Okay, my sound is on.
Hi, Owen, Adele, are you experiencing difficulties?
No, I'm not experiencing difficulties. Amashle typed in the chat section that he can't hear me. So Amashle can't hear me, and I indicated to Amashle my sound is on. So it must be
Yes.
a problem on Amashle's side. Okay.
Yes. I'm going to type
So
in the chat what you must mail CT in TUT for assistance. You can go ahead.
thank you, Adele. I'll continue. Okay, students, I'm gonna go. That question from, let me just see what was from that question from Michelle. That was a very good question relating to prescription, okay, of a claim. Very good question, Miss Michelle. Okay, let me go to the third class of rights, and this is intellectual property rights. So, firstly, intellectual property rights relate only to those creations of the mind, meaning a work of art, an invention, a trade, and trademarks are examples of objects of intellectual property rights. Okay? These rights are also sometimes referred to or called immaterial property rights. So let me give you an example. Copyright over what an author has written is an example of an immaterial property right. Okay? Copyright. Okay? Any questions related to immaterial property rights? I'm going to continue. Thank you, Adele. I see you typed in the chat function and you're busy dealing with Ashley. Thank you so much. Okay. And our last class of rights is personal right. Now, a personal right is a right to performance. Okay. And in law, a personal right is referred to as a claim. So in law, when we speak of performance, it refers to some kind of human action, meaning this human action may be an action either of doing something, a commission, or not doing something, an omission. Okay, meaning we may have a right to action of another person. And here I'm going to give you an example of the right to performance or a claim. And here the action may be the delivery of something by a seller, the payment of the purchase price by a buyer, or the services of an employee. In these instances, it is the action of doing something. Okay? Then we said that the human action may also be not doing something. We may demand that a former employee of our company does not compete, okay, does not compete with us in a particular area of business because she has agreed to do so in a contract. Okay? This is also called a right and it's called a personal right. Okay? Any questions? Any questions? Okay? So the right we have over objects, we as legal subjects, the right we as legal subjects have over property or things, okay? And this is known as a legal object, okay? This is divided into four classes of rights. And these rights are known as real rights, personality rights, intellectual property rights, and personal rights. Okay, any questions for me, students? Okay, if there's no questions, I want us to go to the following page in the study guide. Let me just find the page. Just find the page. Okay, I want us to go to study unit 3, which speaks to the story of our law. And we can go to page, I'll tell you now which page to go to. We can go to, we're going to do, we're going to discuss a bit of history now. And I'd like you to go to page 42. Page 42 of the course outline. So while you go to page 42, are there any question on the four classes of rights? Type them in now or ask me. Okay, there's no questions. Okay. So, on page 42, where I guided you to, I want you to go to the following. And we're going to see how law was received. Okay. We're going to see and we're going to discuss how law was received into South Africa. And now we're going to go back a bit in history. Okay. Now, our starting point should be which year, students? Who can give me a starting point here? I just want a year. Anyone? You can either type it in or give me an answer. Any possible answers? You can either type it in or give me an answer. Please repeat the question, Angela. Angela, I want to know in which year was law received into South Africa? In which year was law received into South Africa? Roman times before Christ? No. Michelle? No. It was, oh, yes, it was received by the Dutch. Asipe, your answer is correct, 1652. Okay. What happened in 1652? Can someone unmute their mics and tell me what happened in 1652? What happened in 1652? I want one answer from someone.
Jan van Riebeeck arrived at the Cape.
Who's that gave the answer now?
Sorry, that's Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Or the Dutch. The
Okay.
Dutch arrived.
Okay, Michelle, you may unmute your mic again. Okay, so in 1652, what happened? 3 ships with Dutch immigrants, okay, arrived at the Cape, okay, and their purpose was to create a community, okay, which would be used their purpose was to bring a community to the Cape to set up some kind of station for refreshments for ships coming around the African point from the east to the west, meaning a refreshment station. So this means people from the origin of Dutch, they came here and they came to settle here for an undetermined period of time. So what is important for us, if you look at it from a legal aspect, when these people arrived here, what did they bring with them? Aside from their linens, their mirrors, their spices, their weapons, whatever, they brought their legal system. Meaning that when here were disputes between themselves and disputes between them and the inhabitants here in the Cape in 1652, their law was applied. Okay, so and the Dutch, very importantly, the Dutch followed Roman law. Okay, so in 1652, there was a mixture of Roman Dutch law at the Cape. Okay, then there was a time when the English also came to the Cape. Okay, which year was that? Which year was that, students? Students, I'm turning my camera around and I want to show you my dog. Okay, and he's joining me tonight. His name is Mr. Lewis. Okay. Okay. So the the English also arrived at the Cape at a certain point in time, and they brought along English law. So, with the Roman Dutch law operating at the Cape, there was a mixture of English law as well. Okay, and after that, okay, what did we have? We had the recognition of African customary law. Okay. And then after that, when it came to democracy, we had the constitution. Okay. So what I want you to do is remember the purpose of me facilitating this module is not to go through each learning area piece by piece. Okay, I need to bring a skill across to you. So, most of the reading in terms of this module, I want you to do yourself. Okay, so it means from page, let me just tell you, from page 42, I want you to familiarize yourself with all of this history up until, let me just check. Let me just check. So it's from page 42 up until I see there's a question also. I'm going to look at the question now. Let me just tell you as far as which page to go. As far as page 55. Okay. From 42 to 55, familiarize yourself with the history of South African law. Okay. And then I'm going to ask us for to go to our last discussion, which is on page 68. And while you go to page 68, I'm going to look at the question. Angela, are the timelines important to know in this module? Yes. Yes. In terms of the history, the timelines are very, very important. Yes. Very important. Okay. Angela, okay. Also, just a reminder, you asked us to read up on the Van Breda case. Yes, I'm just going to do the aspect on page 68 and then I want us to discuss the Van Breda case. I just want to spend 10 minutes on the Van Breda case, okay? So, if you look at the divisions of our law, students, very, very important. If you look at the divisions of our law, our, we have two main divisions of law, public law and private law. And the private law is subdivided into the following: the law of persons, family law of personality, law of patrimony, and it goes down to various subdivisions and it includes mercantile law, labor law of conflict, and legal philosophy. Our public law body is divided into international law, constitutional law, administrative law. People, administrative law is becoming a huge money spinner in the South African legal landscape. There are lots of litigation in terms of administrative law. Okay. Um, we have our body of criminal law and we have the law of procedure, which is divided into civil procedure, criminal procedure, as well as the law of evidence. So make sure that you know our two main branches of law, which is public law and private law, and how they are further divided as well as subdivided. Okay. Any questions before I go over to the Van Breda case? Any questions? You can either type it or ask me. Any questions? Any questions? Okay. So, if there's no questions, let me go to the discussion of the Van Breda case. Okay. Now, last week I discussed the sources of law. Okay. And in terms of our sources of law, we discussed primary sources as well as secondary sources. Okay. We discussed that primary sources are those authoritative sources and secondary sources are sources of persuasive value. We also discuss that 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 our primary sources of law, we in terms of our primary sources of law, that is divided into 5 different sources. The one source being legislation, secondly, decided cases or judicial precedent, thirdly, our common law, fourthly, African customary law or African indigenous law, and fifthly, we came to custom. I also explained that the Van Breda case laid down the rules for custom. Okay? And the Van Breda case was an appellate division case. It was decided in the appellate division, okay? And that case was a 1921 case. It was decided in the Supreme Court of Appeal in the year 1921 in the month of March. Okay? And who can tell me what did the court find in that case? I want a volunteer to explain to me what the court found in that case. If there's no volunteer, I am going to ask Angela to volunteer. Okay, Angela? Can Angela unmute the mic and discuss this with us? Angela? Is Angela? Angela, what happened in that case? Angela, I don't have a mic, sorry. Okay. So, in Van Breda, the legal question was the following. Okay. The legal question asks, can a fisherman who suffered a loss because of another fisherman who breached the local custom which existed amongst fishermen? Okay, that was the legal question. And remember, this was an appeal. Okay, Angela's answer is the right to fishing must be open to enjoy for all. Okay, now what happened in Van Breda? Okay, in Van Breda, okay, we had fishermen in Simonstown in Cape Town. Okay, and they defended their right to fishing. Okay, and they contended that this was a custom. But my question to you was, how did the court find that it is a custom? Okay, and Michelle Forbes, you are saying that the Okay, Michelle, sorry, I broke off there for a while. Michelle is stating that it's a custom. Why? Because they proved that the long-standing interaction by the community and the many witnesses that gave testimony to this. Okay. Yes, the Davis Jacobs. Okay. Anyone else? Guys, I'm back. Okay. And what did the court lay down here? The court laid down the requirements for a custom. None of you have given me the requirements. What I want you to do is send your comments to me via email so I can read through it and then rather make individual comments before I discuss this any further. Okay, so your case discussions on Van Breda versus Jacobs, email it to me so I can rather do the comments and then we'll discuss it at I'll use 10 minutes next week to discuss it. Okay. Adele is asking to please post your student numbers and please complete the feedback at the end of the session. Okay, so students, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here for today. You have lots of history to prepare, so prepare that for me. Okay, someone has asked me for my email address. I will type it in quickly. I'll type in my email address quickly. Are there any other questions for me? So it's owenadv@outlook.com. Okay. So please type in your student numbers. Please complete the evaluation form. And then I will look forward to receiving your summaries and comments of this case via email. I will rather make comment in terms of that and that particular exercise I will discuss with Adele. Okay, are there any other questions for me? Any other questions? Okay, if there's no questions, what I want you to have with you next week is a copy of the Constitution. If you don't have a copy of the Constitution, I want to use the Constitution for discussion next week. If you don't have a copy of the Constitution, I will make it available to Adele to upload on our session for next week. Okay, if there's no questions, I'm going to end the session now. And then those of you tuning in for Skills for Law students, we will chat to each other tomorrow. Adele, are there any questions for me before I log off?
I'm fine, Owen. You can just be in contact with me with what you need the students to receive.
Okay, so I am going to discuss later with you during the week or via email just for me to upload a version of the Constitution, and then to make it available for students on our next session.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thanks, Adele. If there's nothing else, I'm going to log off and I'm going to wait to receive your emails.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening, everybody, and
And you
study well. Thank you. Bye.